Calling meeting to order, East Lyme Board of Selectmen, regular meeting, March 20th, 2024, East Lyme Town Hall, upper meeting room. Call to order. Do the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, are there any additional agenda and consent calendar items tonight? I'm not aware of any. All right, then moving on. Do we have any delegations tonight?
Yes,
Ah,
we do.
all right.
So this is Women's History Month, and I thought that it would be very interesting for us to know about the first two women who actually served on the Board of Selectmen. And so I invited Mr. Willits, Bill Willits, to come tonight and speak about his wife, who was the first woman, and she actually survived 3 terms. I don't know how, but she did. And unfortunately, she's not able to come tonight, but Bill's going to have a few words to say about her. And Bill, by the way, it's really William Willits, is also our town checker of the indices, which I believe you've been doing for about 50 years, right?
I don't know whether it's been that long.
Okay, well, could you go over to the podium, please? Use the microphone. And his wife's first name is Nancy.
Yeah, Nancy, I'm sorry Nancy can't be here, but at any rate, she couldn't make it, and so I'm sort of standing in, and I quizzed her as to her recollections as to how she happened to run for selectman, and trying to piece it together because our memories are not what they used to be. As you may know, the current campaigns that are starting to start, the old men that are running for president of the United States now, well, we've got a few years on them, so you've got to cut us some leeway. Anyhow, Nancy started out as soon as she was able to get out of the house. She wanted out of the house. When the kids got of an age that she was allowed a little more freedom, plus the fact she was newer to the community than I was. I grew up here as a kid. I can't be called a native, especially since there's a peck here now, and I can't get away with that. Anyhow, Nancy and I met when we were teenagers. And she was from West Hartford. I had lived here since the 40s, but we'd summered here when I was a little kid in Black Point. My grandfather built one of the earliest cottages there, but at any rate. So we had summered down here, and my father and mother both loved the area, so we ended up moving down. Nancy didn't move until we got hitched, but that was in the late 50s, and when the children came along, she was pretty well housebound, which she was very resistant to that, I'd have to say. Glad to be able to get out. She had an education. She was itching to get out, and also itching to meet new people, learn the community, and so forth. So she got involved, as obviously you ladies do, and first with the Board of Education. I don't know how many terms she served on the board. I think she was a decent people, knew her. Of course, my mother had been on the Board of Education. My father had been active in local, he'd been in local commissions and so forth. I think he was chairman of the zoning commission for 20 years or so. The original, and he was instrumental in bringing zoning to the town. So she was a relative newcomer, and So she got involved, and she was successful. She was a good vote getter, and I think that at some point, having successfully been elected to the Board of Education for several terms, people she doesn't remember leaned on her and suggested she run for selectman at a certain point. And obviously, as Roseanne has discovered, she did serve 3 terms on the Board of Selectmen. I remember, my own memory is that she used to team up with Kent Sestair on the campaign trail and knocking on doors and so forth and doing that. And of course, we spent a lot of time at McCook's. Although we lived in Black Point, Town Beach was the beach we went to in those days. There was more activity for the kids, and the neighborhood in Black Point was more a seasonal thing, much more seasonal than it is today. I mean, it's still quite seasonal, but at any rate, so. And it popped up in our memory that Nancy was also on the library board. I think she probably started the library board, but she belonged to other organizations outside that. She was active in AAUW and just kind of fell into these things, and she was successful, and she got elected. That's about it. She dedicated a lot of her time to this community, and very few scars anyhow, but I think she enjoyed it. When she finally got to work, she got her coveted job, got hired by Pfizer's, and then she was employed full-time after that, which happened in 1977. That's why I was surprised when Roseanne found out that her term as selectman started in 1977. I thought she'd been in before that, but it turned out that's when she started, when she went to work at Pfizer. And I know a lot of her colleagues at Pfizer's were pretty much in awe of the fact that she was politically successful as far as that was concerned. And so what she remembers is Irving Goldman and Nate Belcher. Of course, they worked at Pfizer's, so I don't know whether the connection is between Pfizer's or but I think Irving Goldman was on the Board of Education with her. And that's about it. I don't know what else to say. She was glad to serve her time, and I think she did a good job. At the time, of course, she being the first woman on the Board of Selectmen, she ran into the old boys club type thing that she had to put up with a certain amount of that, and they had to learn too. And ultimately, look at you now, you got 3 women on the board. Of course, Roseanne's been around forever. Quite.
Well,
Anyhow,
thank you.
I don't know what else to say.
Thank you. Thank you very much,
Thank
Bill.
you so
that
much
was
for
excellent.
sharing.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks for coming out tonight.
so
Appreciate it. And I had the pleasure of knowing Nancy, so I appreciate the reminiscences. And our second guest this evening is Mike Foley. I think that you know him probably. He currently serves on the Zoning Commission, and his mom was the second woman to serve. So I asked Mike if he'd come tonight, say a few words about her.
Thank you, Roseanne. Mike Foley. Pat Foley was my mother. She was very excited to have been elected to the Board of Selectmen. She was significantly less enthusiastic about the actual practice of town government. She did not have the patience for other people's opinions, saw it somewhat pointless, and so I think only served 1 term.
Yes.
But were she here, she would have a good deal of advice for you, but you'll have to muddle through without. She would be tickled to be remembered, though, so thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Mike.
you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. We appreciate it, and you're welcome to stay with us, or if you feel you need to leave, then it's okay. We won't take it personally. So, back to you, Mr. First Selectman.
Okay, any other delegations tonight? All right, being none, and thank you, both of you, for being here tonight. We appreciate it. All right, approval of the minutes. The first is a special budget meeting of February 28th, 2024. Do I hear a motion?
Move to approve the special budget meeting minutes of February 28, 2024 as submitted.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Candace. Any discussion on the minutes? Being none, those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Being none, motion carries. The next item is the special budget meeting of March 5th, 2024. Do I hear a motion?
Move to approve the special budget meeting minutes of March 5th, 2024 as submitted.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Roseanne. Any discussion? Being none, those in favor of accepting the minutes indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. The next is a special budget meeting of March 6th, 2024. Do I hear a motion?
Move to approve the special budget meeting minutes of March 6th, 2024 as submitted.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Roseanne. Any discussion? Being none, those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Being none, motion carries. Next is the public hearing of March 6th, 2024.
Move to, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Move to approve the public hearing minutes of March 6th, 2024 as submitted.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Being none, those in favor of accepting the minutes indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? None opposed, so the motion carries. Next is the regular meeting of March 6th, 2024.
Move to approve the regular meeting minutes of March 6th, 2024 as submitted.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Candace. Any discussion?
Yes. Oh, no.
No.
Nope, it's next.
Okay. Being no discussion, then can I hear those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Being none, motion carries. Next is the special budget meeting of March 11th, 2024.
Move to approve the special budget meeting minutes of March 11th, 2024 as submitted.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Candace. Discussion? No?
Roseanne?
No.
Not on that one. Okay, I have something.
You had some-
It's page 2, motion 13. Let's read it quickly. It says, I'll just read the whole thing and then I'll send it to you. Ms. Chicello moved that under Public Works Building and Infrastructure, reduced line item for NFD Station 2 roof by $200,000. And this should be for a total of 0 instead of $200,000. So we're just changing, it's,
So that's motion 13 on page 2.
yeah, so we reduced it by 200, so it would be down to 0.
Right.
That's all.
Okay. Thank you for catching that, Jen.
Yeah.
Any other changes or discussion? Being none, those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Being none, motion carries. Next on our agenda is the consent calendar.
Move to approve the consent calendar for March 20th, 2024 in the amount of $1,791.81.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Candace. Any discussion? It's pretty straightforward.
Yes, I had a question about the Norwich Ophthalmology Group for an overpayment. It just struck me as being a little bit odd.
I don't have any detail on it. I'm not sure. It was $834?
Mm-hmm. And I don't recall that we have had businesses such as that previously asking for, well, not asking for, well, I guess, yes, asking for it's overpayment, so they're requesting a reduction. It's not that large amount. I'll just abstain if people want to vote on it.
Yeah, I don't know. It could have been personal property tax. It's a, you know, it is a medical office of sorts, and could be that there was some, you know, personal property there, that, and I'm not sure.
It looks like it's just an overpayment.
Just an overpayment.
I'm
Yeah,
not
they
sure.
overpaid. Okay. So, any further discussion? All right, being none, those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Abstentions?
I'll abstain.
All right, we have one abstention. So the motion carries. Okay, new business, special appropriation, park and recreation, CNRE 1200. Okay, so this is a request for a special appropriation of $1,200 from CNRE Fund 32. This involves a replacement vehicle for EL 89. Let's see. No, I'm sorry, not for, but a replacement vehicle was put into service in 2023, and it's a pickup bed, and both of these are trucks that have pickup beds, and these are used for hauling around equipment and tools and whatnot. And the pickup beds inside can get damaged. So this is for a liner. These are two liners to line the inside of the pickup truck bed so they don't get further damage. So it's a way to preserve some of our property, and of course that's been a theme that you've probably heard as we've talked about the budget, taking care of the equipment that we have, and this is in that same vein. So and I think we're all familiar with the black plastic liners and pickup trucks, right? Okay, without any further ado then, do I hear a motion?
Move to approve a special appropriation in the amount of $1,200 from CNRE Fund 32, account 32-08-800-805, to purchase and install bed liners into two Parks and Recreation pickup trucks, EL 89 and EL 59, and forward to the Board of Finance for approval.
Okay, do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Great, thank you, Don. Any further discussion about the bed liners? Being none, those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Being none, motion carries. Okay. Next on our list is the discussion of the East Lyme Ambulance Fund Amendment memorandum to the agreement. We're going to table that. We're going to have some more discussions about that, and so we're not going to move forward with that item tonight. And then the next item, C, is authorized departmental transfers. That's going to be tabled as well. There are none prepared for tonight. And I don't believe we have any appointments to boards or commissions tonight either that I'm aware of. So I think we're going to move through new business pretty rapidly tonight. So
May I ask a question really quickly?
Yes.
I know that you were tabling B, which was discussion and possible action on
Yes.
East Lyme Ambulance Fund
That's right.
amendment to memorandum of agreement to extend for 1 year. So who will be having a discussion? Will we be having a public discussion on it, or who's going to have a discussion?
I've been having discussions with David Bear
Okay,
and over what they want to have and what we need to have, and we thought we were there, and it seemed like maybe there was other things we needed to talk about, so I didn't want to rush it. So I want to revisit our conversation, make sure we're both on the same page
okay,
before we approve it. So
okay.
yeah,
Thank you.
of course. All right. So I think that takes care of new business. Now we're on to old business, and tonight we have an update on the community center feasibility study. So you have the floor.
All right. Thank you. And I just want to make sure that our other presenters, are they on Zoom? Okay. We have a couple that need to participate remotely.
that the one Kevin was saying, just to toggle?
They're in the waiting room, so it's
So you admit them all.
Go ahead and click it. Yeah. Okay. Always just.
Here we go. We see
Okay.
them.
Oh, there we go. Okay, good job.
Can we hear him?
Back.
So let's make sure that we can.
Yeah, I don't think we can hear her. She's speaking.
Okay.
Oh,
Take her off mute.
It's very
She's
low.
off mute.
Oh, you can hear her.
No, the other.
I can hear Jade, but she's very low.
I can hear her barely.
Barely.
There must be a volume.
There's a volume button.
Wait.
We're working on it.
Okay. Should I?
Do you have a volume button?
Not sure.
Everything's all around. Okay, Jay, can you speak again, please? Yes, hello. That did not help.
Give feedback. You
Sometimes, yeah, the echoing.
No, can't hear you.
Try that. Yeah, try
Yeah,
that.
try that.
Yep.
Okay.
Try
Try
that.
Jay, can you speak?
a little better.
It's a little
bit
better.
better, but
Yeah.
it's almost as though that one is working. I'm hearing it from the left. I'm not hearing it over here.
It's over here. So,
Yeah, it sounds like
It's
it's
over
coming
here.
from.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, well, we'll do the best we can.
Are we redo with that? Okay. Oh, that's not it.
I think after 4 years of this, we get it right. Like,
Yeah, it's always so.
No, it's okay.
Meeting icons.
Where's the? Yeah. Yeah. Oh, we all side by side, okay. But where is the presentation? Oh. All right, you're
So,
gonna have to pull it up.
Yeah, I don't know that you need to necessarily see Jade and Samantha, but at least you can see who was part of our team right now.
Okay.
I don't know if you could flip back to the presentation or not.
I can try. I'm gonna try my very best.
Cool.
Which is this one? I don't know. You gotta help me through this because I can barely see the screen, so I'm trying my best. Let's see now.
Ken.
There it is.
Okay, that was a simple fix. That's fine.
You said you can't see the pages?
View back to the board. They want to be able to view the board. Okay. How's that? Better?
Can you see the presentation now?
So they can't see the left part of that.
Okay.
They can only see.
You want to try that? Is it-
Any better? Well, I mean, we can go based on the email that we sent off to kind of coordinate on this, and we can just tell me which page you're on, and we can flip to it as we go through the presentation, and you guys can follow along, I guess, on your own computers. I don't know if this is going to allow anybody from outside of this room and the general public to see this presentation, but we certainly do have PDFs that were made available to the town that may be online, as well as a couple more handouts here on the front desk if anybody wants to take the last couple that we have. So thank you all for agreeing to see us this evening. I want to thank particularly the town for giving us the opportunity to work with the community center and the community here and the staff at the community center to develop this feasibility study and the space needs assessment that we have been working on for the past several months. By introduction, I would like to introduce online is Jade Esplin and Samantha Mayo from Margaret Sullivan Studios. Their studio is located in New York City, but I know Jade is constantly going all over the country to different libraries and community centers working on different projects for Margaret Sullivan Studios. I also have here with me tonight Eris from Eris Land Studios and his coworker Barbara Yeager, who also worked on the project. We had a engineering consultant, Innovative Engineering Services, out of Wallingford, working with us on this project, and of course myself, Brian Cleveland, Architects. I want to thank Lisa Timothy, who is the director of the library, for helping us out and everything that she has given us all sorts of information and helped us through this process tremendously. Kristen Carmenica, who's the director of the Senior Center. Jerry Loken, who's the director of the Parks and Recs Department. Joe Burgaw and Ron Bennis, who are part of the Public Works, who helped us out tremendously in getting us drawings for the buildings and walking us through parts that probably nobody here in this room has ever seen. So it was great to be able to become very familiar with the building through their knowledge. As well as members of the East Lyme Historical Society, I want to say thank you to them for all the help and guidance that they've offered. And in particular, I want to have a special thanks to all the participants in our public outreach programs that we've had during this process. Without them, we wouldn't have been able to get the wealth of knowledge and needs that the community really wants to see within the community center. So a special thanks to all of them. So just to go through a little bit of our process, we ended up doing a site walkthrough with the different members that I had mentioned. We got very in-depth with walking through all the different departments, getting to know the different directors and some of their staff. From those conversations, we had organized meetings with each one of the departments to develop whatever space needs they feel on a staff level they wanted to see as part of the renovation or additions to the buildings. As well as each one of their, we had focused public meetings also for each one of those departments. So the Senior Center, we had a lot of senior participation because most of them were already there. We had some Teen Center participation, which was fantastic to hear from some of the teens that were in town, as well as different library patrons during an evening meeting where we gathered a lot of information from them there. From there, we ended up taking all of this and combining it into an analysis of what kind of needs each one of the spaces required. Where could we potentially lose some of the rooms that maybe are antiquated in their function and repurpose them to new uses? And where do we just not have enough physical space for the types of programs that were identified as wanting to be provided at the community center? And then lastly, we ended up taking that information, developing a couple of plan ideas based on this, where we think we can have 3 different levels of potential renovation of the project. Of course, nobody wants the small or the medium, everybody wants the large. So we'll focus on that a little bit, but there are also 2 smaller levels of renovation that could be considered as part of this. And of course, the final presentation this evening to the community to let you know everything that we found out. So we ended up doing an existing conditions analysis of the building. The building was built in about 1988 and consists of about 36,000 square feet of 1-story area. There's tremendous volume in this building, huge gabled roof. So there's opportunities for these expansions, and you'll see, to utilize some of the existing building's volume and grow vertically into some of those spaces. The library itself consists of about 19,500 square feet of one wing of the building. Parks and Rec and the Teen Center occupies about 6,000 square feet of the building. And the Senior Center, the commercial kitchen, and the multi-purpose room is about a 10,000 square foot wing of the building, all totaling that 36,000 square feet. The building was built very well. It is a steel framed building. They ended up using brick on the base of the building, so it's very durable. The doors and hardware and all those kind of things around the perimeter of the building were and still are in good shape. The staff has done a fantastic job of maintaining the building, with the caveat, which I think maybe some of you already know about, the roof needs to be replaced. The roof is in terrible condition. So that's something that we can talk about as hopefully something that happens sooner rather than later. So the exterior of the building is in really good shape. The interior of the building has been maintained well as well. Again, good materials when it was first built back in 1988. But things that need to be updated. They're starting to look worn. Some accessibility improvements need to be made within the building. In 1988, those were only just starting to be understood as to how to incorporate into the built environment. So because of that, some of the things were under-designed relative to current accessibility requirements. So those are things that should be considered as being part of the upgrades that are taken for the building. We also did an intensive investigation of a lot of the mechanical systems. Again, not a lot of them have been replaced or improved upon since the building was built, so they're starting to show their age, but again, well maintained. As part of the packet, you can see that we took some pictures of some of the locations that maybe had some troubled spots. Tried to identify them within the floor plans for the interior spaces. There is some places where roof leaks are starting to show through the building. Again, some of the materials are starting to get worn, and lighting in particular was noted as being a severe issue in that it is underlit in this building. So improvements to the quality of the lighting in the building needs to be made. The skylights are a little funny because they're all over the place, but they don't seem to let any light into the building, and are causing some of the leaks that we see around the building as well. The multi-purpose room is an interesting space, but the way that the partition walls within it create smaller areas, they're not terribly usable. So there was a lot of conversation about how do we repurpose maybe that room in a better way so that it's a more functional space. The low head heights because of the beams in there. It's not a great space for volleyball or pickleball like they like to use that space for. And then there were some additional photographs of the exterior of the building in some of the mechanical spaces. That extra volume that I was just talking about up in the attic space, you can see on some of the lower pictures, where there's just a tremendous amount of real estate available, but you have to go up a story in order to get to it. With that, I'm going to actually turn it over to Eris.
Thank you, Brian. Good evening. My name is Aris Stalis. I'm the principal of Aris Land Studio. We're landscape architects with our office located in Bridgeport. So Brian talks about square feet. I talk about acres. The site is really, it's a beautiful site, and I think what it does is it combines the, what's changing and growing, your community center, and then the Brookside Farm. That's right there. As you drive through New England, the quintessential stone walls say, I'm home. And it kind of gives a sense of peace. And it's something that really, when I first arrived, I go, that's just gorgeous. So thank you for letting us experience that. Some of the things we find at the front, the site itself, where the community center is located on, is about 10 acres in size. At the front of the site, you have a wetland that's a little over an acre in size, and it's actually in very good shape. It's once you get past the perimeter, which has a lot of invasives, inside it's the vegetation's a lot of native plants, beautiful experience. So it's nice to see healthy wetlands that haven't been taken over by invasives. Around the site, you have the various schools, the Brookside Museum. That adjacent property is about a little over 66 acres. And the woods that go all the way out to I-95, that's about 21 acres. And when I look at the community center, I'm like, wow, look at all this opportunity here. Now, I don't look at 21 acres and say, let's build on 21 acres. I'm saying there's a lot to experience there. Kind of diving down closer to the facility, you have the benefit of having southern orientation as you arrive at the site. In the front of the building's nice and warm. Flip side of that is that with all the parking, asphalt that goes up to the building gets very hot. And so that's one of the we see that as a negative, would like to buffer that. The parking orientation, the way it's laid out currently, in general, we like to see parking lots that are run perpendicular to buildings. It makes it much safer. This, with the way it is, we now have visitors having to walk through the parking aisles that can cause be a little bit less dangerous. As I mentioned a little bit about the landscape, there's a lot of community involvement here at the facility with the garden club, and we've seen that transformation there at the front. People have been working at the back, so we see a lot of opportunities there. Of course, with any landscape, you know, we have invasives, and there's things that need to be dealt with that. We're doing this very quickly, so there's a lot of things we probably won't cover. You'll likely have questions. So we're condensing everything, and definitely don't expect that. Well, if you don't get an answer tonight, we'll definitely be around for quite a while to answer more questions. With that, I'll turn on to Brian to keep us moving.
All right. So with that, I wanted to invite Jay to talk about the community engagement portion of the project. And Jade, we're going to be flipping to page 17 to start. I'm sorry, can you say that last part again? We can, but it's very low.
I can't hear it all.
No.
I just want to say for the record, I'm not getting any of this.
If I really listen, I can get it.
Okay, Jade, try to talk a little bit.
She took a little louder.
I think it's coming from inside the cabinet.
I have her hold on a second. I have it here.
I was thinking we move past those and go to the new speak pipe on page 33, because a lot of the themes that came up through the engagement are represented through the new speak pipes and the content planning.
She had mentioned to go to page 33.
That's from her.
And Brian, as much as you can help fill in, because I don't have much.
Try talking again.
Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Testing, testing. Hello, hello, hello.
Would you want to call into my cell phone?
That's it easier?
Yeah, and I'll mic
That'd be
it.
better, and then.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we really can't.
Yeah, let me call her and we'll mic it.
Do you remember?
I don't. Do we want to call?
I have your number.
No, but she has, I mean, if she can call me. You have my number. Okay.
Are you looking for the town phone number to give them?
How are you gonna give it to Jade?
Just,
You're gonna read it off to her?
Yeah, or she can call, can I
Jane,
call her?
they're going to read off a number.
Or can I call her?
Please call it.
I can send an email to her.
Okay. Yeah, why don't you send a text or something
Hey, do you know my number?
with a number?
I don't know my own number.
Oh,
I have too many phones. I'm sorry, Jade. I know that what you're saying is very important, and we do want to hear you. So
Yeah, so-
please forgive us.
You should get an email from me, Jade.
What was Sandy saying about the sound?
is that your town phone or your other one?
This is the town phone.
Oh.
I'm not really believe.
Maybe it's, Okay.
Can you hear me?
I can. We're going to put you on the mic here. Okay.
All right, sounds good. Okay, so what did you miss? Should I start over at any place?
Why don't we just start over?
Beginning
Yeah,
again,
because
How
you
about we
really
do
missed
that?
it.
from the
Yeah.
top.
Okay, so Brian, help me here. We're starting over from page 17.
Dan, it might maybe be better if you're not touching the mic with that.
All right, is that right, page 17?
I think
You can put it on top of your thing. Why don't you do it like that?
We're figuring it out, Jane. Thank
Okay.
you so much.
Okay,
We got it.
speak.
For any
Okay.
taxpayers watching right now,
Okay.
this is why we want to
Testing,
update this
testing.
room.
Can we hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, much better.
Oh, so much better.
Okay.
Okay.
Sam, can you hear me virtually? Okay, excellent. Okay, great. Hello again.
And
So
what page?
we're gonna start on page 17, correct?
Great.
Okay,
Okay.
page 17.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So hello all again. So just to recap, this engagement summary page, the architects and consultant team facilitated 3 community feedback sessions. These sessions really helped us gather insights on the specific spaces, activities, programs that the community needs or aspires to have. And the findings are outlined in the following pages, and they've really influenced the development of the space program and the concept plan. So if we go to the next page, page 18, this is kind of an overview of the findings, and what it outlines is really a high-level summary of what we heard across all departments in terms of what the community said was their need and their desires for the future of East Lyme Community Center. So through all of our conversations, we pulled out some of those key themes that really start to activate the experience, and then we're using those themes to really align the findings for each department. And the consensus across departments was this need to activate outdoor spaces, create more space for intergenerational connections, foster health and well-being, and nourish knowledge and passion. So what that comes out to in terms of space is really needing space for, in terms of activating the outdoor, activating the plethora of outdoor space that Eris mentioned in his analysis of the site, the opportunity for nature trails, an outdoor event or performance space, some play and sensory spaces for youth, intergenerational connections. There was a lot of talk about just ability to host events and talks and lectures, as well as just a central intergenerational cafe or bookstore or gathering space to bring the community, which you'll see really come through in all of our concept schemes. And then in terms of health and well-being, having spaces for social services, human services to come and meet people at the site, fitness programs, and just having a quiet space, respite space. And then last but not least, just nourishing knowledge and passion. This really came through in all departments around just the rich local history that you have, and the fact that the East Lyme Historical Society is co-located with the library. There was a lot of opportunities to really tap into them and have exhibitions and lectures and talks on that history. So if we want to go to the next page. And this is where I think we cut out at the last time, and I was recommending, because for time's sake, that we skip the next few pages, because the next few pages really illustrate the findings per department. But a lot of those themes do come through in the new space type pages, as well as the concept planning sections. So my recommendation, just for time, is that we skip to page 23 and dive right into the program. Any questions though before I move on in terms of the engagement or conversations with the community that we had before we dive into the program? Okay, so page 23 is our program summary. So this really details out the various space types in the building, but what we did was we're providing 3 different scaled options to really optimize the available space and the site. And these were all kind of identified through interviews, again, and with department heads, and then the community input sessions. And so we'll get into these kind of 3 scaled options more specifically in the schemes. But I think in terms of what we really want to highlight is the new spaces, or the spaces that we have added that came out of the input sessions. So we can just move on to the next page, which is page 24. So in terms of the new space type, so the program is split into shared space, which is like communal space for the full community center. And then we have the 3 department spaces, the library, Parks and Rec, and the senior center. So this first page, in terms of the shared space, new space types, these are really what we heard across the board in all 3 departments that came up as kind of the top desired space, the most sought after, if you will, spaces, and really intended to cater to those diverse needs and aspirations of the community. So these were the community cafe. So again, just a casual spot for like all generations to meet up, grab a cup of coffee, and hang out. The vibrant bookstore came up a lot, like bringing kind of the library out, having some retail displays in kind of a neighborhood bookstore experience. Community event space. So we did look at that assembly room that already exists today, to kind of reestablish that space and with some minor upgrades or major upgrades, to really just make it a little bit more multifunctional and accessible, as well as having it available for after hours for the community members, was something that really came up. Small meeting rooms came up, not only for like the community to go and meet each other, but again to bring in social workers or social services into those spaces, counselors where they could meet their clients as well. And then again, outdoor spaces, we can't understate them enough. It came up. Like, there's so much opportunity in terms of the site and those outdoor spaces, and so those a lot of ideas came out of the community in regards to outdoor spaces like outdoor patio, barbecue, picnic areas, theater performance space, gardens, playgrounds, a sport court, and also just like some dog-friendly walking trails. So then we can go to the next, and I think we're going to focus on the library new space types. So these, this is page 26. In terms of the most requested spaces from the library, and this really serves as like the top spaces that came out based on the needs, based on the community aspirations, and really we want these to serve as a menu at the moment of possible space types for the future. So the top ones that came through our engagement was a community exhibition space. So again, just having that East Lyme Historical Society there and all of the amazing artifacts and archives that they have on display, but there's also a desire to feature local artists as well. Community living room, so this is kind of like reading room transformed with a slightly more versatile space with some diverse furniture options just to enjoy and socialize. And then there's a deeper need for a larger and more dedicated young adult space. So, especially with the school right next door, that just a space for them to go that's free to socialize, hang out, and study. And then the next one's a community program and lecture space. So just a multi-purpose enclosed space for community programs of all kinds and lectures and talks. A makerspace came up. There was a lot of conversations about just like wanting and desiring spaces for hands-on content creation. And, also in adjacent to that, the library of things, so like having just like access to tools and equipment and supplies as well. And then co-working zone came up. There already is community members already coming to the library and working, bringing their laptops and working for the day. So just to create a more intentional environment for them came up. And then the community kitchen also just caters to the community's interest for cooking classes and just kind of experimental learning. And then again, mentioned the library of things. So offering checking out more than just books. So tools, equipment, beach supplies, recreational equipment, etc. Came up as top desire as well for the library. For sake of time, we'll just move on to the most desired space types for parks and rec. This is page 28. So in terms of parks and rec, a lot of the key spaces that came up was a more pronounced and enhanced welcoming space. Right now, they have some challenges with sightlines and visibility, so just really opening that space up, creating a better welcoming area and more visibility into that space for people to come. A cafe lounge also came up, just a designated area for youth and families to come and just enjoy snacks and just a place to have lunch during the summer and during the summer camps specifically. The game alley, which they kind of have this a little bit today with their games, but just having a bit more intentionality around a space for families, friends to come and have video games or board games, just more recreational activities. A homework hub, dedicated space for homework assistance. A music and recording studio came up, and it came up in a sense of like not only like electronic equipment, but like actual instruments. There's like a lack of access to like guitars and pianos at schools, and so the youth, brought up like the desire for that experience. study nooks, so smaller enclosed alcoves that kind of offer a quieter spot for youth to go and read and study. A counseling room was a top priority. This is going to be seen throughout all three schemes, which is really a private space for the teens to meet with their counselors for one-on-one sessions. And then the field house, which also was a big topic in the conversations that we had. We realized as we were there that the community, East Lyme community, doesn't actually have a dedicated recreation or field house. So they're always constantly borrowing from schools and other spaces in town. So this kind of, there's this growing demand, if you will, for a recreation space. So in our large program, you'll see that come up for an expanded facility to have that indoor recreation. And last but not least, the senior center new space types that you'll see coming through our concepts are the senior day lounge, which they do have today, but really repurposing that so that it's offering a variety of seating and settings to just kind of casually meet, relax, be alone together. A program room, so actually an established and larger, more multifunctional program room that they could host, anything from fitness programs to kind of arts and crafts. A dedicated fitness studio, so you'll see this come through in the medium and large scheme, but really a designated, they already do so much fitness classes, so having a designated studio for yoga and aerobics and strength training and meditation was brought up a lot with the community. And then having dedicated clinic and wellness rooms. So these are like smaller enclosed spaces where, customers and patrons can meet with their like medical or wellness personnel, which could be wellness checks or any type of treatments, reflexology, massage therapy, etc. Things that are already happening at the senior center. There's just not dedicated intentional space for these things to happen. And then the staff meeting room we added here too, just because they're really tight in space back there in the staff area. So having a little bit more space and providing them an area to collaborate and just kind of discuss things one-on-one was mentioned. So that's the new space types, that were kind of most requested. Again, they really serve as a comprehensive menu of like the potential space types that should be carefully considered in kind of the future planning and design phases. And then I think next, Brian, we're going to move to the planning concept. And I think we're going to start with page 33. So with everything that we heard from the community and our synthesis into kind of those key space types, we designed or crafted rather 3 conceptual schemes that present, varying degrees of expansion or renovation options for the East Lyme Community Center. While we found, minor adjustments and space reallocations may address certain feature requirements, like in the small, we did find, and I think, Brian alluded to this as well, in the existing site analysis, we do find that there's would be comprehensive renovations necessary to like fully accommodate all the desired spaces and really elevate that community experience. So while each scheme, the small, medium, and large, offer scalable options for the potential use of the building and the design, we are seeing that the large program best accommodates the needs of the community. Of course, this is all necessitating further validation and study. So in terms of just an overview of the 3 schemes, and then I know that we're at time, so Brian, I'm not sure you cut me off at any time. But in terms of the three schemes, we have the small. This is where we're really focusing on strategic space reallocation within the existing layout. So here we're really not expanding the footprint or undertaking any extensive renovations. This approach really aims to address as much as possible the desired space requirements through rearranging and just minimal modifications to the current building. So in some cases we're reallocating a space and dividing it into two to make clinic rooms, creating a program, like expanding different types of program spaces to make, or open spaces to make enclosed spaces, but really it's a reallocation and not an expansion. And then the medium scheme, we are also looking at reorganizing the space too, but we are adding subtle renovations and expansions in critical areas. So like Parks and Rec staff spaces were being increased and expanded. The senior center program room is expanding out of the current footprint of the building. And then we're adding a second level to the public library. So really the goal is to expand and enhance these departments to really better serve that community and ensure those structural improvements too are maintained on like the multiple levels. And then in the large scheme, again, this is more significant renovation and expansion efforts that would take place. This includes the ground level expansions for both the senior center, and this will really include a larger program space, fitness center. It includes even more square footage for that second level. In the medium, we're taking only partial of that second floor. In the large, we're taking the full second floor. And then and most prominently in the Parks and Rec department, the construction of that field house is represented in the large scheme as a new building. So I know we are at time and we're 2 minutes over, so I think we should turn it over to Eris for some of the site concepts. Thank you all.
Thank you, Jade. Coming to the site, one of the things that we see as really one of the critical components here is to address the pedestrian path systems. A lot of students are coming from the schools and there isn't any place defined for them to walk. So if anything, one of the things that really needs to be addressed is creating a series of walkways from the school. We have crosswalks, and then it's just like, all right, go anywhere. So really defining that path system. The second thing we looked at was essentially, I played with your parking lot a little bit, and just by reorienting things, I added about another 10 to 12 spaces and made it safer with the orientation being perpendicular to the building. So that was just a quick study I did there. And also you'll see in that we just just greening up the front of the building a little bit, cut away some of that asphalt and cool the building. Moving to the outdoor spaces, a lot of pictures that kind of show what we're thinking about. The small, so the small space, a lot of what Jade talked about of connecting to the outdoors, that's what we're trying to achieve here. And trying to activate some of the spaces. A lot of the spaces that we're dealing with, be it on the west side, the north side, they're quite dark because they're always in the shade. the building has a very big presence. So that's just something to be thinking about as we try to activate them more. But there is a lot of space there. And then the courtyard, well, I call it the courtyard where the chessboard is, really opens up opportunities to really kind of carve it out to get more activity there. It's something that, you know, in the small scheme, we simply kind of clean it up and organize it a little bit more. But as we move to the medium-sized scheme, we're adding structures there and formalizing spaces to get more use out of it, adding community garden opportunities, and this creates an opportunity to connect with the museum, cross-generation spaces, having active recreation. On the south side where the recreation center is, it's kind of a dead open space as it comes to the parking area. So really trying to kind of take advantage of what we have here. It's really not building out tremendously, but again, it's trying to create more opportunities outside. And then when we get to the more aggressive large scheme, it's adding more structure to it, a larger shade structure in what we call the courtyard. We find that the field house, we can fit in there without encroaching onto the wetlands, defining a better drop-off. So when you arrive at the library to either drop off your children, pick up your children, drop off books or whatnot, that it's kind of, you know exactly where you're supposed to be going, and really creating spaces so that when the children's library opens up, the children can open up and go outside and have a safe space out there that's enclosed, and so they're doing outdoor learning. Because one of my big things is connecting children to nature, because we know how it helps them learn. It helps reduce symptoms of ADHD and such. So I'm just such a big proponent of getting kids outside, and adults as well. There's a thing called forest bathing, but basically walk in nature. That's why, proposing a simple trail through the wetlands is kind of, okay, let's really see why the Wetlands Commission wants to keep us out of the wetlands. So instead of saying just stay out, let's learn about it, because there's such valuable ecological elements in our world here. And really, we created what we call the aspirational site plan. And if you look at this plan, it keeps a lot of the work close to within the building area. We're not looking to build out areas. We consider a little parking area where there's a field area if you need it. One scheme has it as just a wildflower meadow to teach people that it's really not that hard to take your lawns and turn it into just a meadow. The way it changes habitats is kind of mind-boggling when you walk around and you walk by a property that's all with native flowers and the pollinators and everything buzzing around. To me, it's very exciting. So that's what we're trying to bring here, bring people back to agriculture, which is, there's nothing like farm to table, and teach people, wow, it's so easy to grow this. Let me visit my local farm for all these things. And the field house fits in nicely. We've cleaned it up, organized it, and this, if I had everything, this is what I would build for you. And let me turn it back to Brian.
The last few pages of the workbook that we put together get into some of the findings of expansion of the mechanical systems, the structural systems, based on the different concepts that we presented this evening. They start to outline where there might be some deficiencies relative to each one of the scaled up versions of the small, medium, and large, and what kind of infrastructural improvements may need to be made to the building in order to accommodate those renovations. I don't know that it's necessary for us to go through these bullet points. This more is a study of understanding what the community wants are and how we can incorporate those wants into the facility that they currently have. One of the obviously big points of this study also was to try to understand what is it going to cost. We did put together some conceptual level budgets based on the small, medium, and large ideas relative to square foot costs that we see in the industry today. Each one of those costs is then escalated for 2 years, assuming that this probably won't go under construction if it were to start today for at least another 2 years. And so we have represented what we believe is a realistic number in 2026 if you were to try to go and build out each one of these different schemes. Starting at about $8.5 million, I believe, for the small concept, getting up to $11 million for the medium concept. And of course, because we have the field house and a lot of additions to the building, we were at about $17.25 million for the full-blown fit-out of this building. I think it was a testament to the town back in 1986 when they first commissioned this building to build it well and build it right. There certainly was a lot of money spent on this building when it was first built. And I think it stood the test of time, and it deserves some investment to move it into the new generation. With that, I want to open it up to any of you who might have questions or comments or concerns based on what our presentation had in it this evening.
I'll start off. As I was around in 1986 when we were having all the deliberations. And of course, what we have now is a downsize of what we had originally hoped for. So one of the concerns that I have is the move upward to the second level. And that originally was supposed to be an open walkway with bookshelves up at the top and then a balcony overlooking the lower level. And part of it wasn't just cost that it didn't happen, but concern about the ability or the stability of the lower portion of the building to be able to support that. And that land was very wet, very marshy, and it was a feeling that that would not be safe. And it was unfortunate that that wasn't decided early on because we could have expanded towards the back. So I would be interested in a little more detail about how you would envision the increased usage of the so-called second level.
Yeah, most of the second level that we had proposed here, I believe, was a theater space or like a place for lectures to happen up in that upper level. We talked about maker spaces that may have been on the lower level. Jade, I don't know if you want to talk specifically about some of the opportunities that we were showing up on that second floor.
I think to Ms. Hardy's point, we're looking for structural integrity, not necessarily how
Right.
it's used.
My point was that the uses that we're looking for on the second floor are not heavy items being placed onto an upper level. You've already have a huge collection of stacks on the ground floor. The building has been here for 40 plus years, or around 40 years. There isn't any signs of settlement of the building. So the structural engineer at the time did a really good job of considering the geology of the ground around it and seems to allow for the increased use of those second floors. We do have a structural engineer who did make recommendations relative to how we would go about doing the second floor. And again, we didn't do geotechnical testing or any of that kind of information, but it definitely seemed very straightforward as to how we would include a second floor for the building.
Thank you.
I had a couple questions.
Sure.
I'm just trying to, I guess this happens all over the nation, these community center rehabilitation. I'm curious about the community cafe. Is this something where you'd have an outside vendor, or would the town be involved with health and well-being of all the people who come in through there and drink a cup of coffee?
So, ironically enough, my previous office and Margaret Sullivan Studios did exactly this at the New Haven Library, where we integrated a cafe space into the library itself. And it was originally envisioned that a local outside company who already had a couple of establishments within town would come in and manage and run the cafe within the building. That worked for about a year, and unfortunately they had to back out of that agreement, but the library was able to find another vendor to be able to come in and operate that space as a cafe.
Yeah, if I can just chime in, it typically is a vendor partnership. An outside cafe comes in and uses the space. We've seen it happen at varying scales, though. Some of our libraries also just have like a coffee station. So that's where they're supplying just the coffee and maybe like a water, a place for water, hydration, and coffee, which is like a little bit low key, and you don't have to deal with all of the like health and safety codes. It's more of a refreshment station than a full cafe. But typically, if you're doing a full cafe, it's a partnership with a vendor.
Thank you. I have more questions. Does anybody else want to jump in?
Go ahead.
I see on all the plans there's a small rectangular building behind the library that has never been repurposed. I would assume that that's like HVAC technology that can't be moved, that just is going to live there.
Yeah, it's where the cooling tower and the generator live. The walls around them are crumbling, so they need to be replaced as part of any renovations that are done.
Okay. My final question, I don't know if you can answer it. Maybe Ms. Timothy could speak to it. The library is not the East Lyme Public. It's not under the town control. They're a tenant. I'm just wondering how that would complicate any of this.
I don't know if you want to speak to that, or...
I would assume we would continue to be a tenant. We would have the same arrangement that we have now. I don't know how, I mean, it's the town's building. The town moves it around, keeps us in it. We're still a tenant.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if that makes sense. I don't know if is that what you're asking?
Sounds really simple. Must be the right answer. So.
No, not necessarily.
No.
I wasn't expecting that question. But we are tenants. We pay $1 a year. We do send the dollar over, and that's how that was set up. I do have a copy of the lease in my office if you wanted to see it.
I don't know. Maybe it's like one of this thing we have to kind of have lawyers take a look at it, just because
Probably.
It sounds like it would be a very complicated arrangement if we were to change it.
I mean, certainly the building was built with the intention of the library coming into it originally, so I don't know that it's complicated. I'm not a lawyer, but it seems pretty straightforward that in the town's interest, they will build a building for the library to live in, and you rent it back to them or lease it to them.
Those are all my questions. Thank you.
I'll go next. I would agree with that. However, this is an incredibly comprehensive presentation, and it's beautiful. And of course, my eyeballs are very large and loving the large concept, right? At $17.25 million. So, and even on the small scale, I guess my question would be, how are we going to pay for that? Where's that money going to come from?
I got that.
I'm just going to put it out there, you know, the realistic one over here. But I will say, again, I mean, the presentation is absolutely outstanding. I could see it. I love it. I'm looking at it going, oh my God, that would be amazing to have, right? The field house and all of these things. And then I get into the reality of, you know, the cost, what that looks like. And I think that the question that Jason brought up was valid. So yeah, how would we pay for that?
Certainly one of the...
Raise the rent to $2. Or more.
There is an inherent carbon footprint in an existing building, and the cheapest building to build is the one that already exists. So by investing in this building rather than potentially moving it to someplace else, I don't think it makes sense to move it anyplace else within town. Having the adjacency to the schools and the other public facilities that are right there make a tremendous amount of sense. So making the argument for raising the money in order to be able to build this building was the primary objective of why we wanted this to be comprehensive and why we wanted to give you the resources in order to go to the community and make the pitch in order to try to raise those money and to give this building back to the community at the end of the day.
Yeah, I guess we can do it this way. I'm going to move my microphone here a little bit. So I do have a question about the books and the stacks, and it looks like they're distributed throughout. How does that work actually? They would, in these various rooms, we would kind of allocate certain areas to certain collections, or I'm trying to get that in my head.
Yeah, Jay can probably give you a fairly succinct answer to that.
Yeah, I can definitely jump in. So yeah, we typically will allocate the collections for or closer to the audience that they're for. So by distributing, most of the collection would definitely exist within that community living room. You can really think of that as like the stacks and the traditional reading room. However, we would look at distributing the collections a little like for audience. So obviously all the children's collection would be incorporated into the children's area. Any like economic development, workforce development, like books could be incorporated in the co-work lounges and areas. We've seen, any arts, crafts, culture books being allocated into those types of like maker spaces or art spaces that are kind of more adjacent with the type of activity that they're doing. So matching kind of activity with collection. And then of course, all of the like young adult collection would be in the young adult and teen lounge. So that's kind of what we mean by distributed collection. We would more intentionally place the collection, and we're not specifically calling out like this amount of square footage is for collection, because it's absorbed into those kind of conceptual blocks, if you will, on the plans.
So if I got it right, you would distribute the collections throughout most of the space, consistent with the purpose of the space.
Yep.
If it's geared towards children, you would try to call out the books that are consistent with children, and maybe the maker space would be books about creating and making art, all of that sort of thing. And that's how.
That's right, and that's all a collaboration also with Lisa and the library collections team too, and like what's best for the community. So that would obviously still need to be would require more analysis and development.
But just conceptually trying to get the big picture, and and the result would be ultimately more space. So for collections, this accommodates. Growing collections in the various areas. Is that right? We would have a net increase in space for the books and the collections, hopefully.
In a small concept plan, the collection will not grow. At least in our concept plan, it's the existing square footage. Just because in order to grow community space, you can't also grow collections. Okay. There is always a trade-off there. Right. We've seen, especially in the last decade, a lot of public libraries are shifting towards more communal gathering space and downsizing on collections and being more purposeful and intentional in that regard. However, in the medium and large plan, because we are expanding, you could grow collection in some of those areas, most definitely.
Got it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else?
Yeah, so this question I think is more focused to Ms. Timothy. So it's my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the library needs more space? You need more space, right?
In the building
Okay.
needs more space.
So does a small option, does that give you more space?
No, actually it gives us less if you look at the numbers.
Okay, so that's what I was trying to understand.
Yeah, the small
So,
actually does give us
Does it,
slightly less than what we
now,
have now.
is it, and I don't understand this all, but does it it gives you less space, is it reallocated in a better way for you? Like, is this actually a positive option? I guess that's what I'm trying to get at. Like, is it actually something that you're looking at going, yes, this would be helpful?
No, in all honesty, it's less space would be a problem. What the good thing about that space is my understanding is the Historical Society takes some of that. Currently, what is supposed to be their space in the building is outside the library. The small one moves it within the library, if I'm reading that correctly, which is very nice. But again, we are completely out of space, and to spend $8 million for less space would be problematic.
So is there a way that, and I'm just trying to think, the East Lyme Historical Society, when I was looking the other day when I was at the meeting with you, it looks like there's two different rooms that are being allocated for the East Lyme Historical Society.
Yes.
In that one, right? So is there another space in the building that they could put the East Lyme Historical Society, so the library could actually have more space even though it's the same footprint? Does that make sense?
For the architects and for the Historical Society.
Are you following my questions?
Yeah, certainly the idea when developing each of these schemes was to get the community feedback, see where their needs were, and then to be efficient in allocating spaces to each of those wants.
Okay.
So yes, while the library may be losing some space, that's because there was an overwhelming voice of wanting to have a different use allocated to some space within the building. So the small scheme takes that approach to this. Keep it inside the same footprint, allocate spaces, rearrange spaces, maybe become a little more efficient with the layout of the rooms within the building, but don't grow.
Okay.
And see how we can accommodate all of the wants of the community based on the outreach that we were given.
So what I'm hearing is that the library, if you went with the smaller option, would maybe have smaller number of books or collections, because you're hearing from the community that people want more gathering spaces, more spaces to, I don't know, just kind of be, I guess is the best way to put it.
Right.
And, and I think, part of this is also part and parcel of the fact that, I've seen it, we have Darrow's Ridge where people want to get more in touch with nature. They want to be more quiet because there's been so many stresses on people, even more so than before, I think, because of the pandemic. So that's what I'm trying to ask. So you're seeing different priorities. Is that my understanding? Am I hearing you right?
Absolutely. Certainly in looking at the small concepts specific to the library, the location where the stacks currently are, which is the entire right-hand side of the plan of the library, you can see that we're carving out spaces from that stacks area to be these different types of gathering spaces. So what you're trying to articulate is exactly correct. We're taking existing space, we may be reducing the collection, or again, trying to keep it the same size it is currently, but relocate it throughout the building in different ways that will distribute those stacks to different areas within the building, but allow us to create more communal spaces throughout the building.
So then would people still be able to take books out, and would they go to a certain main hub to take books out if there's collections in different areas?
The circulation desk still stays exactly where it is. The reference desk, I think, more or less stays exactly where it is currently. So those resources are still there. People would still check out their books the same way. We still have the same staff areas needed for the mending of books and the Kinetic for the distribution to other people. So all of those functions are still in there. Again, it's just trying to reorganize it and be a little more contemporary with the way that the library is laid out.
Okay. So, Ms. Timothy, again then, when you look at and I'm just trying to understand, the library is like my favorite place in the world. That's like my happy space. I go in there at least once a day. So my next question is, I'm looking at the small, the large is astronomically expensive. I mean, I don't think that East Lyme, I don't know, but it just seems like that's just kind of out of our, it's the Mercedes, I guess you would say. Now the medium one, how does that help you with the library?
It helps a little bit with some space upstairs. But when I sit down and look at this as a professional librarian, the large option gets us to about where we should be now with services.
And that's relative to the population.
Yeah. I understand 17 million is a lot. I mean, for that, we could probably go through the buildings, right? I'm not naive, I know that it's a huge price tag. I think we're going to need to think creatively because the roof does need to be replaced, but just as importantly, the space needs to be, something has to happen with the space. The senior center has those little garages that you have in your backyard on the side because they have nowhere to put things. A whole other department has been moved into this building since the study was done. The Youth and Family Services is now part of the building. So something's got to give here. And again, I'm reasonable. 17 million is a lot, but I think we can think outside the box and use this as a starting point to start discussing priorities and how to adapt some of this into something that's beneficial for the whole community, and that works.
Okay, great.
And some of the outdoor stuff we will be doing this summer. We're working with Brookside to do a book discussion group on pollinator paths and pollinator gardens that you can do at home or in public spaces. So we're going to do a book group to educate people what that is. And we're hoping to start making that space between the community center and Brookside into a place to teach people about nature and whatnot.
Yeah.
Some of that stuff we can start.
That's great.
Okay.
No cost right now, and we're working on that.
Okay, great.
But something's got to give. You put a whole other department in here, and the Historical Society wants their space back.
No, and I understand that. I'm not trying to,
No,
yeah, I
there's
just,
nothing, there's nothing hostile about this.
Yeah, no, I'm
knowledge was supposed
just
to
trying to
be theirs,
understand it.
And, they graciously left that out to the community for 30 years. They have a legitimate need for space. The firehouse that we looked at doesn't look like the best option. It does look best to keep the Historical Society near the library because you don't have to come up with a whole separate staff for East Lyme Museum. Our staff, the library staff, is already doing quite a bit of work with them, and we can help some of the burden of, setting that up and cataloging it. I have moved one of our reference librarians into a half-time local history position where she's specifically taking East Lyme's history and storing it in the closed stacks instead of in people's attics and basements where it is now. And we're cataloging it and finding, developing finding aids. So it makes sense for us to stay with the Historical Society, but I'd hate to see us get into a situation where you're taking away space for the library to give to the Historical Society. It shouldn't be either or. We have to figure out how this all works going forward to be in the best interest of everybody. And I think there's a lot of ideas in here.
so just one more question, so basically for the public, is how much space or material does the East Lyme Historical Society have? I have no idea, actually.
We have the president of the East Lyme Historical Society.
President?
Yeah, if
In
you
the
wouldn't
audience
mind,
tonight.
just so we have a better
If you could come to the
understanding.
podium too, please.
Thank you.
Welcome, Mr. Peck.
We have a lot of stuff. We have collections that have been not given to us yet, but willed to us. We have a tremendous amount of items in houses. We could fill the East Lyme room up in about a day. As it is now, if we got that room, we would fill it with exhibits and then store those items that are not on display in order to, over the years, display everything.
Okay.
We have Indian artifacts that are coming our way. Very interesting. We're
headed towards, if we got the East Lyme room, the Olive Shandali room, we would dedicate half of it to Nehantic tribal artifacts. There's one thing here I have to say that is missing, that use planning. We have the new police station, and as far as I know, there's a lot of vacant space on the second floor, which could be utilized by some of the users of the East Lyme room, the Olive Shandali room for meetings. We have all this handicapped accessible space there available, 24/7 open. Now that I'm here, I'll make another comment that about the big picture. I've always had a heartache for the town building facilities that compete with taxpayer businesses. Tennis courts, pickleball, fitness centers, yoga. All these businesses are out there paying taxes, and I think we should be careful when we are thinking about building things like that. Be glad to answer any questions about the Historical Society.
So the rooms, as it stands with the option one, I guess I'll call it the small option, there would be 2 rooms for the Historical Society, I think,
Well,
right?
the archives have part of our archives have loaded the East Lyme room up. We would continue to use that as archives, and then hopefully more room someday. The Olive Shandali room, for now, would be very suitable for a beginning of a nice museum. So those 2.
Okay, great.
And which plan would that be under? Could we do that with the medium plan?
I forgot. I haven't been able to see clearly these.
Well, both the small and the medium have space allocated for the East Lyme Historical Society. They have exhibit space, so there is an accommodation.
Yeah,
even in the small scale, there's an accommodation.
That
But
would be.
That doesn't mean taking away the existing room?
Yeah, I mean, it looks like it's using what is the Olive Shandali room. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm not
In
looking at
addition
it.
to keeping the existing room?
No.
Existing room.
Yeah, so
Which option are you talking about?
we, in the small concept, we were allocating some of, I'm sorry, I can't pronounce that name's room, towards the archive storage for the East Lyme Historical Society, in addition to keeping the East Lyme room and adding a staff office adjacent to the East Lyme room. That is all included within the small, and it does grow slightly as you go to the medium and large.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Peck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank
Yeah,
you
thank
for
you.
your comments. I kind of want to chime in just a little bit because you mentioned priorities, and I can't highlight that enough, an exclamation point enough. And forgive me, but I am going to say it again. How are we going to pay for it? Okay, because we just pushed a budget forward to the Board of Finance, and everyone is still kind of taking a look at that, and we don't know where that's going to go. We just sat through the budget process, questioning money in so many different departments, and cutting and scaling back, and talking about cash capital versus bonding, and saving money, and percentage rates, and down the road, and what it's going to look like for our taxpayers. And that was only just a few days ago, and now this has come before all of us. So again, how are we going to pay for it? Priorities, needs versus wants, because there's a lot of wants in here. I'm calling it as it is, okay? It's not against anyone. I'm not trying to rob Peter to pay Paul. I don't value one thing over another. There's a lot of wants in here, okay? And the needs, so far, all I hear is the roof is a need, right? Some more space. I do think that there's a lot going on over in that space, and people are competing for space and to successfully achieve services and enjoy their space. So, I think that options, looking at maybe what we have in town and maybe moving certain things like Mr. Peck had said, or looking at reallocating. You mentioned a new department that has come over, which is the youth and family, and to my knowledge, and correct me if I'm wrong, as you walk in to the youth side, not the library side, to the youth side, right on the left, so I'm like right in the front, on the left, you're walking in, and that space has been shifted around to accommodate that department to share space with everyone else over there. So it has no effect on the library. Okay, all right. And again, I mean, I want to have conversations about how we can help, and I'd be even more willing to come over and take a look and, and think outside of the box so that, everybody has space, but not at the cost of this. And I don't even know if the first or the second option would be worth the cost, to be honest with you. I really don't. But I'm more than willing to have those conversations and be open to other ideas and to see what we can do. And I think that you wanted to add a few more things.
Yeah, this wasn't meant to be a demand on the town. This was just meant to open up conversation about what could be possible. And I think it'll do that. And I think as I said, I'm a taxpayer. I live in town. 17 million is a lot of money. However, you do have to think about what we're losing by not having, go to Madison, go to Branford, look at what towns slightly more affluent than us are, Wallingford, and see what they have for libraries, and you'll understand what we're missing. There is a price we're paying for being scrunched in here. But I absolutely understand your point. I think that East Lyme has it within them to figure out a solution to this that works for everyone. We're known for that, and we need to do that now more than ever. The other thing I wanted to mention is that the library, State Library Building Grant will offer $2 million toward expansion of a library, and that does include a library in a community center. It is a long process. It takes a few years. There's certain things that have to be into place. We have taken steps to do some of those things. The strategic plan that we're doing now is required. We will have that finished and ready to go.
Is there a requirement, because I was going to get to that as far as reimbursements and that kind of thing, because in such a large project, quite often you will have reimbursements that you can take advantage of at the state level. So those are great things that can offset a cost.
Yep, yeah.
And which is doable.
That's
right?
up to 2 million. Yeah, that's up to 2 million.
Right.
There's no reason to think we couldn't get that. It's a lot of work. I would need to work very closely with the town. There's pages and pages of requirements, but it's a complete it's a grant. You'd have to match it, but if you're going to spend that much on the building, 2 million can come off the top for anything that goes near the library.
I see.
Niantic artifacts can be covered by IMLS grants, Institute for Museum and Library Sciences services. It's a federal program. I don't think they do buildings, but anything with exhibits or storing and all of that, I believe, could be covered by some of that.
Okay.
So there are ways of paying for this that are not just putting it on the taxpayer.
Right. Okay. That's wonderful.
Yep.
Thank you.
We've thought of that, and I think there are also grants for the senior center as well. I'm not as familiar with that, but 17 million is a lot, but there are grants that will offset some of that.
Offset the cost.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I've lined the library up already to be eligible for that. We've got a 5-year window here, and if I need to, do it again, we'll do it again as long as it takes.
Okay.
So we are looking at that, and it's not a demand. And you had mentioned the departments competing with each other in the building. We actually don't compete with each other. We work really, really well. Good. But any of us can contest. We're in each other's all day long, like, I got this meeting, where can I put it? I got this meeting, where I can put it? You know, I can't get into the new meeting room in the library. I'm the director, you know, it's so popular that it's booked, it's like, forget it. You know, and we are having programs for the first time out in the lobby,
So would
because
it
we're that
help-
busy.
So when Mr. Peck had made the comments as far as some of the meeting spaces that are being utilized there, if it was offset at a different location, would that help within your?
It
would.
might. Right now, the East Lyme Archive Room is also the library program room. All of our adult programs take place in there, which means the archives they have 3 hours a week, undisturbed right now. We're trying to carve out more, but every time we do, something else comes in that's urgent that we have to kick them back out. And with archives, by the time they unpack everything Monday morning and start working, it's time to pack it back up. They can't really do much of anything in 3 hours. We need a dedicated space to work on some of that. And we've been working that out. I've got a back room where we stashed a desk. You know, it was a storage space. It's now local history office.
I see.
We're doing what we can
I got it.
to do it.
All right, now you had mentioned, and I think it might fall under Kristen, the senior center is storing something in,
Yeah,
you storing?
you have a shed, don't you, on the side? The one that the kids work. Yeah, that's your storage, right?
That's our storage.
Yeah, they have a backyard shed. Off
You
to
have a backyard
yeah,
shed.
they're adding
What
those
is
to
stored
put
in
stuff in.
What do you store in there?
What we had theater under the shelves, so a lot of their stuff is in there. Just supplies that we need, holiday supplies.
You know, for every holiday, all of our holiday supplies are right there. They used to be stored up in an attic, but that was just too hard to get to. So now we have the shed just to store stuff, because we have no storage space at the senior center. So they were talking about the Olive Chandali room. That's one room that we do all share and we do use. And we used to have our guitar class over there, and now we have youth and family, and so they're using that room during that time. So we are, I mean, we do work very well together. We really do. It's wonderful. But we're just running, we really are running out of space. But we're doing what we can.
Okay, thank you.
And like she said, grants, I know there are some grants out there that I could definitely apply for to help with the cost of the expansion as well.
So, I say it every
thank you.
time you're here.
We do need a grant writer too, so
Yes,
let me just put
it's
that
in the budget.
that place.
Yes, we were talking about it earlier. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'll sign off on the phone here. We good? Thank you very much
Thank you very much.
for your report.
Thank you all.
I would just like to say that I think that it's important to have a vision. Maybe we can't have everything, but to have a vision of what the possibilities are, what they could be.
Yeah.
Not just what we need, but thinking ahead to our grandchildren, thinking ahead to thinking about what we want our community to be like and our services to offer. And I think this is something that has been offered to us tonight. And now I think it's up to us to think about these and the possibilities and have a plan. What can we afford to do in next year's budget? What can we afford to do, so that we have long-range goals before the roof falls in? And then we have to do it, and what's been damaged in the meantime. So I think that you've given us a lot of ideas tonight, and I appreciate that. And I don't want you to feel that we aren't listening. We are. And I think that there are some things that you have brought forward that are reasonable for us to begin to tackle. And certainly to have the discussions. Maybe all we can have is a small plan. But what can we do with that as we have these groups all trying to work together and work with you? So thank you very much for the work that you did. This has certainly been an exciting presentation, very thought-provoking, and I just wish I lived further down the coast. Thank you.
If I could, 2 more quick things.
Yes.
The library is doing the strategic planning process right now, so we're asking people to go to our website and fill out a survey on what you would like to see the library do for the next 5 years and give us an idea. We want the public's input. There are surveys available at the library on paper and here at the town hall. There are QR codes on signs all over town. You can just take a picture and take the survey online. But we really, really want to hear from people about
what do you want to see? Less books, more books, rooms, whatnot. That's important. I also did want to let Dr. Bob Linden talk because he's done tremendous amounts of things for 30 years for the library, and I don't want his voice to go unheard.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to echo what Roseanne was saying. I mean, I think some of us in this room have been under the impression for 30 years that we cannot put a second floor in that building. And this is news to me. And I think that when we go through the priorities, I think that a lot of these are wish lists. But I think one thing that's doable is not wasting time replacing a roof and just then going forward, but possibly as we replace the roof, raise the roof and add a second floor.
Right.
That would decompress the library space and fulfill our top priority because, yeah, maybe it can't take stacks up there. They're too heavy. But we can extend the stacks into the community room and make the upstairs that community room we're all talking about, put the Historical Society up there, put the meeting rooms up there. And that's a huge space if we can put a second floor under that roof and not waste money replacing the roof right now, but coming up with a vision for the next 5 years where we raise the roof, replace the roof, but we put that second floor in. And that answers so many of the questions we're talking about today.
I can't agree more, Dr. Linden. Thank you very much for that.
I think the library
I
space
appreciate
is the number one priority.
Thank you.
Thank you for your input, and I will sign off now.
Before,
Thank you again.
Before you go, I actually just want to thank you for the community outreach part that you've been doing because I have seen that there's been a lot of participation on that. So I'm curious to see what the survey actually brings and how many people are participating. But it seems to be quite popular, and that's a very good thing that you're doing.
We're getting
so
a
I
very
like
good
that.
response.
Oh, good.
We've gotten well over 100, probably over 200 responses by
Good.
now. We're going out and talking to the kids in the lobby.
Yeah, the
at
students.
the high school.
Yep.
You know, what do you guys want? This is going to be your library.
Yep.
In a few years. So, but thank you for noticing.
Yeah, that was
The more we
wonderful.
can get the word out, the better.
Very good. Thank you all very much.
I am going to hang up the phone. Thank you again.
Yes, thank you all.
All right, good night. So, I got my microphone back. Watch out. Okay. So, thank you very much. You know, as Roseanne and the others said, this is aspirational, and it really is. It's a jump start to the conversation of what we, first of all, what do we want to do? What concepts here can we grab onto, and then try to figure out what can we do to accommodate, and in the most efficient way, and in a way that serves the community the best. So we're going to start the discussion, and we will. I think we have a lot to look at, bringing these home and really studying it. Thank you very much for a really very thorough and wonderful presentation. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
So, with that, I guess we'll turn to the fishing dock. Something just as interesting, the fishing dock leases. I guess we're going to table that for tonight. We're still, yeah, we're still working on.
I can offer something. I've met with Greg a couple times.
Yeah.
The boat was at the Bridgeport facility. I mean, do you want to do this right now, or you want to table it? I mean, this won't take long.
Well, I don't think we have the legal.
No, we don't.
Oh,
Yeah,
wait.
so
Okay.
I think we should probably table it. So I think you're working with the lawyers and stuff.
No, I'm not.
They haven't reached out to you?
No, sir.
Okay, so then we've got some work to do to kind of get this
Okay.
teed up.
I'm ready to roll it.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. So next is ex officio reports.
I have some.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so we had the youth and family meeting, and they are adjusting to their decreases in their budget. They're moving forward with many programs, the Girls Circle and some other grants that they're writing. They asked me about a $60,000 opioid grant, money that I apparently should have received from the town, so I don't have any information on that. So I did ask Park and Rec, Jerry, and he had no idea. So I said that I would bring it here and ask here because somebody knows about a $60,000 opioid grant and where the money went, and if it can be put into the youth and family mission. The second one was Park and Rec, they're also adjusting to the decreases in their budget. They're moving forward and hiring for the summertime and looking at how they're going to adjust to the decreases in their budget and hoping that they're not going to get any more decreases in their budget. The short-term rental I attended also, and as we all know, they had come to our meeting and they talked about kind of updates and where they were and the legality of a court decision that's going to be looked at and spoken to apparently this week. I don't know if anything's going to be decided on or not. They're going through different recommendations and thoughts, trying to come to a consensus and bringing something forward to the Board of Selectmen, possibly in April or May, knowing that they very well may not have a final recommendation, knowing about the court case that really hasn't come to fruition. So it is, you know, I commend each and every one of the people that are serving on this commission. They are doing their due diligence. They are finding facts. They are peeling back that onion that is, it is a very thorny, as Mrs. Santoro will say, conversation. So I look forward to seeing what they come forward with, and really where the court case lies as well. And that's it.
Okay. Do you have anything? Jason?
I would just like to say that the Stars Descend Planetarium rededication happened over the weekend, and it was a wonderful event, really great occasion, and going forward, they're going to start their spring series shortly, and Harbor Asset Management Shellfish Commission is just docks and shellfish. Not a lot happening right there right now.
Okay. Roseanne?
We're going to get to see, to be able to view the solar eclipse.
Yeah, oh yeah. They have programs that they're coming up with for that.
Okay.
And,
All right, the zoning commission, most of their time, the past 2 months have really been very lengthy meetings with discussion about the proposed development behind Tri-Town called Latimer Brook. And it's still in the discussion phases, still things to be worked out. Many concerns and concerns expressed by the public about the wetlands, Latimer Brook, that the developers are going to have to respond to. And that's all I have.
okay.
Only thing I have is tomorrow night. I have a Wells Call tomorrow night. That's
Okay.
so I'll report on that at our next meeting.
And I attended the police commission meeting the other night, and they are, our police department is really doing a great job with the, their certifications. They're up to the 3rd tier of certification now, and now they're starting to look at, I think it's the federal level of certifications. They're also being asked to assist. They've done such a great job that other departments that are going through the certification process, they're being asked to critique and assist in that process for other departments. So it's quite impressive what they have done. So it was quite informative to be at their meeting. There were a few issues about the uses of golf carts in some of the different beach communities, and they were trying to iron out, and I guess there was some misinformation that was posted on the websites for some of the beach areas, and they were trying to resolve that and get it right. So they're working on that issue. So that was the only ex officio that I had. Are there any more? Then if not, I'll move to my first selectman report. Had an interesting day yesterday. I attended, had to address the Chamber of Commerce at Philomeno's in Waterford, and I had a joint presentation with Rob Brule, the first selectman of Waterford, and we each presented sort of the economic picture for our respective towns. So I got to give a little talk and presentation there, and I think it went very well. There seemed to be a lot of interest in both communities. And then last night I attended at the Rosa Negra. There was a really nice event honoring women. It was like an International Women's Day event, and there were 10 women from our community that are inspirational women that really do a lot for the community. One is sitting just to my right. Candace was honored last night, and I got to give her a proclamation and certificate, and which I was pleased to be able to do, and it was very well deserved. And it was really a nice event and a nice evening. So I was glad that I got to take part in that. And also, I was at the ribbon cutting for the planetarium, which is another wonderful facility that we have now, and I think will continue to grow, and the interest will continue to grow from people in town that get to go up there and see some really interesting presentations in the spherical dome of the planetarium. So it's really unique, and I'm hopeful that they'll be able to get funding to get some chairs, the right kind of chairs, so it'll be a little easier to look at the presentations that they have. So that's my first Selectmen's report for tonight. Is there? We did have some communication, and that was regarding there was a petition for a declaratory ruling certificate of environmental compatibility for a generation plant at the prison, and the Siting Council had to put us on notice. The Connecticut Siting Council has to put us on notice that they want to place a fuel cell type of electrical generation unit at the York Correctional Facility. So they've let us know about that, and we're on notice of it. So if anybody has any concerns or wants to know more about it, I'll try to steer them to the right direction. I'll give them some information, the phone number for the Connecticut Siting Council, and they can learn more.
Speaking of that, is there any update on the data center and where that's at?
The gentleman that was heading up the push against resigned last night. It's creating family strife. He's not getting the buy-in from people. It behooves us to be on top of it and help support the issue, at least finding out all the knowledge. There's just not enough people to have the facts. It is going to be a very serious situation regarding the power. And did you get a chance to talk to Mr. Brule at all about that issue, or?
I did.
Okay. Yeah. The big concern is from the ground is this company taking Millstone 2 and 3 as exclusive piped in for power. So that raises the rates to other people. If they're using that to max capacity, our electric rates right now are pretty much the highest in the country.
Yeah.
And I'm hearing some of the rates from Florida that are literally 1/3 of what we're paying. And they're using air-conditioned buildings and running pools and things like that. And these guys are going to take 15 to 25% of the power from units 2 and 3. And I'll explain more to you later. I'll sit down with you and explain what I know. But it's a shame the guy had to step down. He's just worn out. He's having stress about it and family issues. But he's done the push. Today I got 3 phone calls from our customers in Waterford saying, I got this flyer on my mailbox. Can you tell me more about it? Well, why, read it, do some research on it, So it's definitely going to be an issue, sir.
Yeah, so thank you, Don, for your input. Yeah, I'm very much aware of it, and one of the things I plan to do as soon as we get the budget buttoned up, I'm going to head down to Virginia, and there are 3 different data centers in that area that I want to observe. I want to stand there myself. I want to understand it. And once I come back from that trip, then I will report what I think and what I observed.
I appreciate you making the trip to do that.
It's important.
Dan, is it okay for me to suggest publicly that maybe we have a community conversation, a partnership of maybe to talk about it, since it's right on the line?
Of course, but why don't we talk about it off?
Yeah.
And then on the side, but yeah, no, it's very important, and people have to be informed so that they can decide what their opinion is of it. But I want to, before I comment too much more, I want to educate myself as much as I can about it and understand all of the various issues that attend to its placement. And part of that will be, I think it's, I'm the first selectman, I better see what they look like, and so I'm going to get down there, and I'm going to do it. So that's where I'm at.
Who's watching the dog?
I might take the dog with me.
I'll
maybe.
take Molly.
We'll see if her ears perk up when we get close. I'm sorry. All right, so there's no other public comment. That's my response. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I'll move to adjourn the March 2024 regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen at 9:05 p.m.
Do I hear a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.